Top 10 gemstones that are invisible to cameras. Some stones refuse to be seen, not because they're hidden, but because the tools built to capture beauty fail them. Photographers call them a nightmare. Collectors call them misunderstood. But to anyone who's ever tried to photograph one, the question becomes haunting. How can something so real vanish through a lens? These 10 gemstones remain untouchable in a world of 4K AI filters and cinematic lighting. They glow in the shadow, shift in silence, defy algorithms, trick focus systems, and turn clarity into confusion. They exist, they shine, but the moment you press record, they disappear. This isn't about rarity, it's about resistance. The stones you're about to see, or almost see, challenge how we think about light, value, and truth. Because sometimes, what can't be captured is what's most worth chasing. Don't forget to press and hold that like button, leave a comment, and hit subscribe before we begin. Ranked 10th, Phenakite, the stone that pretends to be empty. There are stones so brilliant they demand attention. And then there's Phenakite, a gemstone that demands stillness, just to be seen. To the eye, it's a whisper. To the camera, it's a lie. Phenakite belongs to a rare class of beryllium silicates. It is formed deep inside pegmatite veins and grows beside topaz and chrysoberyl, stones famous for color, brilliance, and visual drama. But Phenakite evolved differently. No vibrant hues, no shimmer, no play of light. Its power lies in its silence. Under natural light, Phenakite appears almost weightless, a trace of crystal balanced between air and intention. But when placed under a lens, that trace disappears. Modern cameras optimized to highlight contrast and saturation fail to detect soft refraction. The stone fades into whatever surface it rests on. White background, lost, transparent tray, invisible, in motion, absent. Its Greek name means the deceiver, and nothing deceives quite like purity. Phenakite bends light without fanfare. Its refractive index is too close to quartz's, and dispersion is too low to create fire. So while diamonds dazzle with their internal chaos, Phenakite maintains a perfect calm. Light passes through undisturbed, and photons barely shift. For the camera, there's nothing to register. Jewelry photographers call it the vanisher. Retail catalogs struggle to display it without artificial enhancement. In product shots, it looks like a mistake, an empty ring mount or a blank pendant. Viewers assume it's missing. Sellers know better, but can't prove it through the lens. Even in the video, it resists attention. There is no sparkle, shadow, or drama. It doesn't move like a gem. It moves like a mirage. And yet, among collectors, Phenakite holds mythic status, not for its beauty in photos, but for its defiance of them. This is a stone that breaks the rules of marketing. It cannot be sold by image, and it cannot be described by light. Its value lies beneath what is visible: structure, rarity, and vibration. Some consider it a spiritual stone. Others say it's for those who look deeper than shine. But all agree, Phenakite doesn't want to be seen, it wants to be known. And in an age obsessed with clarity, no gemstone hides it more perfectly. Ranked 9th, Kornerupine, the spectrum that confuses sensors. Some colors blend, others battle. And Kornerupine is where that battle never ends. Born in narrow veins beneath Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Tanzania, Kornerupine is a gemstone most have never heard of, and even fewer have truly seen. This is not because it's too rare to photograph, but because cameras don't know what to do with it. At first glance, the stone appears green, maybe olive, maybe moss, but tilt it slightly and gold flashes rise like sparks. Shift again, and violet creeps in at the edges. Under soft daylight, it cools to a misty sage. Under warm bulbs, it burns copper bronze. No two angles agree, and no two viewers report the same hue. To the human eye, this chaos is thrilling. To a digital sensor, it's overwhelming. Most cameras attempt to resolve Kornerupine's pleochroism, the property that causes it to show multiple colors depending on light and viewing direction, by flattening it. Algorithms simplify the data. The result? A dull gray-green image that captures none of its inner movement. Where fire once lived, now rests fog. Photographers call it a non-compliant spectrum. Even in controlled lighting, the stone shifts out of balance. The white balance skews and the focus drifts. The sensor tries to define a dominant wavelength, but Kornerupine offers none. Every frame is a compromise. Even post-processing tools struggle. Boost saturation, and the stone looks artificial. Adjust contrast, and one color overtakes the others. No matter how precise the edit, the result always feels wrong. But Kornerupine was never meant to be translated. It was meant to be witnessed. In person, it hums, not with brilliance, but with tension. Every glance is temporary, and every shift is a betrayal of the last. It holds no truth for long, and in that, it reveals a deeper one. That some things are not fixed. That identity, even in crystals, is fluid. Geologically, Kornerupine forms under intense pressure in metamorphic rock. Chemically unstable, it incorporates a wide range of trace elements: iron, magnesium, titanium, each distorting its optical behavior. This is not a flaw. It's a design. Its pleochroic nature isn't an accident of nature. It's a rebellion. In jewelry, Kornerupine remains elusive, not for lack of supply, but because photographs fail to sell it. Online, it rarely stands out. In galleries, it's misidentified. Even in hand, it requires movement, a play of wrist, a change in light, to awaken what it holds. And what it holds refuses to settle. For gem cutters, Kornerupine is both a challenge and a test. Cutting it means choosing which version of the stone survives and which are lost forever. If the cut is too shallow, the color will weaken. If it is too deep, the stone will darken into shadow. Precision isn't just technical, it's philosophical. And for those who collect it, the reward is not in what Kornerupine shows, but in how often it refuses to show the same thing twice. Ranked 8th, Taaffeite, the rare ghost. It wasn't discovered in a mine. It wasn't pulled from deep earth. It was found by accident in a pile of spinel. In 1945, a Dublin gemologist named Richard Taaffeite noticed something wrong with a supposedly ordinary gemstone. It looked like mauve spinel. Nothing special, but under polarized light, it betrayed a secret. It was birefringent. Spinel was not. What he held was no imitation. It was something the world had never classified. A new gemstone, one that science confirmed, but cameras have struggled ever to reveal. Taaffeite is among the rarest minerals ever identified. Fewer than 50 gem-quality pieces were known when it was first recognized, so it has remained elusive in nature and photography. Its color, between violet, lavender, and soft rose, is delicate to the point of disappearance. Photograph it under warm light, and it turns washed out. Shoot under cool light, and it slips toward pale gray. Flash photography strips it entirely. In digital form, Taaffeite rarely looks like anything worth noticing. But that's the illusion. This is a stone that punishes assumptions. Its softness of color is a test. Cameras seek dominant tones, intense saturation, and precise edges. Taaffeite offers none. The chroma lies low, balanced like breath. When set against a white backdrop, it fades. Against black, it reflects awkwardly. Move the light source, and the body shifts from silk to smoke. Editors often enhance high-end product photos to prove they exist, but the more they manipulate them, the less authentic they become. In print catalogs, they're often mistaken for synthetic sapphire. In the video, they blend into the setting, an outline with no presence. But in hand, everything changes. Taaffeite carries a light that doesn't flash, it lingers. The eye adjusts slowly, like looking into mist at dawn. Its value lies not in spectacle, but in subtlety, and that subtlety defeats even the best imaging tools. Taaffeite behaves like a memory, unlike diamonds, which dazzle, or rubies, which burn. Not quite there, not quite gone. Geologically, it forms under infrequent conditions. High beryllium, low pressure, magnesium-rich environments, typically in Sri Lanka or southern Tanzania. Many of its crystals are misidentified, even discarded. Some are never found at all. Identification requires lab testing, not just sight, and so it remains a ghost, a gem of mistaken identities. a rarity disguised as something ordinary, a presence that only reveals itself when cameras fail and silence begins. Ranked 7th, Iolite, the angle that makes it vanish. Some gemstones shimmer, some dazzle, and some vanish when looked at the wrong way. Iolite does not obey a single color. It's a stone of shifting identities, deep violet 1 second, steel gray the next. Under another tilt, it's sunlit blue. It doesn't just change tone, it changes allegiance. This phenomenon is not magic. It is pleochroism taken to its extreme. Iolite exhibits 3 distinct colors from 3 directions, creating a sense of movement in the human eye, a visual dance between shadow and depth. But for a camera, that movement becomes distortion. Sensors do not adjust dynamically to angles the way human perception does. They choose a dominant wavelength and flatten everything else. And so when a lens captures iolite from its least expressive axis, the trichroic illusion collapses. The result? It's a dead zone, a dull rectangle. It's a gem that looks more like slate than stone. Under standard lighting setups, photographers struggle to find the right approach. Too much backlight causes violet to bleed out, and too much top light causes it to gray over. Even with reflectors and filters, the stone rarely looks as it does in hand. Iolite often appears cold and lifeless in commercial listings, a poor imitation of tanzanite or sapphire. Viewers scroll past, unaware they've dismissed a stone used by Viking navigators to track the sun through overcast skies. Yes, iolite was once a compass. Rotating against polarizing light reveals the sun's direction with startling accuracy. To ancient explorers, that shift wasn't a flaw. It was truth made visible. Yet the modern lens struggles to render that same truth. Where the human eye sees nuance, the camera sees confusion. Where nature offers 3 colors, the image software picks one and forgets the rest. This is what makes iolite dangerous to assumptions. Its value isn't just in hue, but in angle. It's a gem that asks to be moved, turned, and read like a coded message. Flatness ruins it, and stillness silences it. For gem cutters, iolite demands discipline. The axis must be carefully chosen to display the most vivid color when viewed face up. A single mistake, and the stone becomes washed out, unsellable. Many cutters discard near-perfect material because the pleochroic direction refuses to align. Yet in motion, not in photos or freeze frame, iolite comes alive. It does not sparkle like diamonds or glow like opals. It shifts. It invites attention, not with brilliance, but with contradiction. And once seen at its best angle, it becomes unforgettable, but only for those willing to tilt their perspective. Ranked 6th, Colorless Fluorite, the crystal that becomes nothing. Transparency is often mistaken for absence, and no gemstone plays this illusion better than colorless fluorite. At first glance, it resembles polished glass, cool, clean, and almost weightless. But under closer inspection, its structure reveals something far stranger. A gemstone so clear and devoid of reflection that it barely registers even to the machines designed to see it. Place it on a white surface, and it disappears. Place it on black velvet, and it refracts the darkness itself. Photographed under soft light, it fades to a blur. Under hard light, it fractures into ghost-like streaks. And in most commercial images, it vanishes. Not figuratively, literally. Colorless fluorite has one of the lowest refractive indices in the gemstone world, just over 1.43. That means light barely bends as it passes through. There is no sparkle, internal fire, or edge for the camera's sensor to define. The result is silence, a void wrapped in crystal form. Jewelry photographers know the challenge well. While diamonds catch every light source and throw it back as a flare, fluorite lets it all pass. There's no anchor point. Autofocus fails. Exposure fluctuates. What's captured is often a vague smudge, a placeholder for what should have been a gem. In the video, the problem deepens. Movement doesn't help. Colorless fluorite casts almost no shadow, and its internal structure offers nothing to reflect. Even the sharpest 4K footage renders it as missing, like a gap in the timeline or a flaw in the lens. But this invisibility isn't an accident. It's a mirror held up to assumptions. Colorless fluorite crystallizes in cubic or octahedral shapes, often forming perfect geometry at the microscopic level. It's found in hydrothermal veins and sedimentary deposits, and while most fluorite comes in bold colors, purple, green, blue, the purest forms are stripped of all pigment, leaving only lattice. What's left is essence, a mineral so honest in structure, so minimal in interference, that it resists spectacle. And in that resistance, it exposes the limits of digital vision. To gem collectors, colorless fluorite is more than a rarity, it's a paradox. It demands to be held, not seen, touched, or photographed. Beauty lies in presence, not appearance. For many, that's frustrating. For others, it's sacred. Fluorite returns to a world where everything is overlit, overshared, and overfiltered. It says, look deeper. Look again, not for what glows, but what endures in silence. Sometimes what the lens cannot capture is the most honest form of truth. Ranked fifth, Chrysoberyl cat's eye. The line that vanishes. Some gems shimmer. This one draws a line and then makes it disappear. Chrysoberyl cat's eye is not named for color. It's named for what moves across it. A single streak of light, clean as a blade, bright as a reflection in water. That line, known as chatoyancy, is one of the most hypnotic effects in gemology, but the camera rarely sees it. Chrysoberyl reveals its secret in focused light, a thin beam, sharp and floating, sliding across the surface as the stone turns. It doesn't sparkle, it stalks, a living pupil in mineral form, but that presence depends entirely on control, direction, intensity, and angle. Change any of those variables and the line disappears. To the naked eye, the cat's eye dances, always centered and continually moving. But digital sensors are not built for nuance. They capture light as scatter, not direction. And so, the streak becomes diluted. It fades, doubles, or shifts off-center. What was once alive becomes dull. In photographs, the line breaks. In the video, it stutters or vanishes altogether. Studio photographers know this well. To capture a proper cat's eye, light must be reduced to a single beam, often from a pinpoint source held at the perfect angle. Even then, results vary. One wrong tilt and the gem turns milky. Too much ambient light and the line fractures into haze. No filter fixes it. No enhancement restores what was never registered. Chrysoberyl cat's eye isn't forgiving. It's selective. Only those who understand how light travels and shadows behave will see it at its best. The effect comes from parallel inclusions, often needle-like rudal or hollow tubes arranged perfectly inside the crystal. These structures reflect light in one tight direction, producing the famous slit. But that precision is also fragile. A slight misalignment in the cut blurs the eye. An uneven cabochon and the magic goes flat. For cutters, chrysoberyl is not a material, it's a lens. The dome must be exact, the polish flawless, and the orientation must capture the whole spine of light, centered dead on. Anything less, and the gem becomes ordinary. Yet even when everything is done right, the camera still hesitates. Unlike brilliance, which explodes in all directions, chatoyancy is linear. It demands motion, interaction, and a shifting gaze. It was never meant to be still, never meant to be paused. On the other hand, Chrysoberyl cat's eye holds a presence. On the screen, it holds absence. But for those who've seen it in motion, just once, the memory lingers. A line that floats without flicker, a beam that watches back. It's a gem that reminds the viewer that some lights were made to be followed. Not frozen. Ranked fourth. Blue amber. The stone that glows in the wrong light. Most gems shine in daylight. This one waits for darkness, or something stranger. Blue amber is one of nature's great optical paradoxes, a fossilized tree resin that looks golden in hand, yet emits an otherworldly electric blue under ultraviolet light. This glow doesn't belong to its surface or structure, but to its memory, and cameras rarely get it right. Blue amber appears ordinary in normal conditions, honey-toned, warm, and familiar. Even under studio lighting, it mimics common amber found in cheap jewelry and old relics. But shift the wavelength, bring in UV light, and the transformation begins. A deep cobalt sheen bleeds through the surface. The glow emerges not from reflection, but from fluorescence, molecules absorbing invisible radiation and releasing visible light. It's instant, surreal, and a hidden flame unveiled to the human eye. But to most digital cameras, it's confusion. Sensors optimized for daylight often dull the blue completely. Auto-white balance compensates for the glow into flat gray. Even under UV lamps, most lenses underexpose or color correct the intensity away. Post-processing tools misread it as noise. The result, a gem that refuses to shine where it should and glows where it shouldn't. Blue amber doesn't ask to be lit, it asks to be revealed. The origins of this stone stretch back over 20 million years to the extinct trees of ancient Hispaniola. Under extreme pressure, their resin fossilized with a unique molecular structure, different from Baltic or Burmese ambers. That structure holds compounds that respond to UV light like no other gemstone. Collectors know the ritual. Place the stone in a dark room under a black light. Watch the blue emerge like a spirit through the glass. There is no sparkle, no flicker, just presence. Soft, ghostly, real. But take a picture, and the presence fades. The fluorescence is too specific, too directional. Cameras struggle to isolate it without losing contrast. Shoot too close, and it floods. Too far, and it dies. Most public images of blue amber online are either overexposed simulations or pale misrepresentations. Few capture what the stone does. Even in the video, the glow pulses unevenly. Frame rates conflict with flickering UV. Some shots show the amber flashing, while others show nothing at all. Viewers unfamiliar with the science can easily dismiss the effect as trickery. But this is no trick. It's chemistry made visible. And that's what makes blue amber so quietly radical. It refuses to impress in the light it's given. It waits for the right wavelength, the right eye, the right moment. In that way, it isn't a gemstone in the traditional sense. It's a message left behind, written in molecular code, a secret that doesn't perform on command. But it glowed when asked the right question. Ranked third, Alexandrite, the color that cameras misinterpret. By day it's green, by night it burns red, and between those two worlds lies a gemstone that refuses to be captured. Alexandrite is known for one thing above all: transformation. Under daylight or fluorescent light, it shows a crisp, almost forested green, calm, regal, restrained. But shift the source to incandescent glow, candlelight, sunset, and the green retreats. In its place rises a deep raspberry flame, blood, wine, smoke. The transition is instant but not loud. It's whispered, like watching memory change color. But most cameras never hear that whisper. Digital sensors are not built for duality. When confronted with Alexandrite, they choose a side. They flatten the color profile, bias toward green or red, and discard the other. Even high-end equipment, DSLRs, mirrorless systems, cinema lenses, often records just one mood of the gem, rarely both. Never fairly. The result? A gemstone betrayed by the tools used to honor it. Catalogs listed as color shifting, but the images tell another story. On screen, Alexandrite looks green with a brown tint, or red with a strange gray base. Viewers scroll past, never knowing they've overlooked a mineral phenomenon once considered a miracle. And to mineralogists, it nearly was. Discovered in the Ural Mountains in the 1830s, Alexandrite emerged from the same geological crucible that produced emeralds. But unlike emeralds, it carried a secret. Trace chromium atoms positioned so precisely that they absorb different wavelengths under different light sources. In white light, which contains the full spectrum, green prevails. In red heavy light, the gem reflects deep crimson. This is metamerism at its most elegant. The same structure, two realities. But the camera doesn't see context. It records what's in front of it, not how it's meant to be seen. For gemstone photographers, Alexandrite is a chase. It requires 2 lighting rigs, filtered sources, and carefully angled reflectors. Capture the green, then change everything to capture the red. Stitch the images together and hope the transition feels natural. It rarely does. Even in the video, Alexandrite resists drama. The subtle change depends on ambient light that shifts second by second. The stone never flashes between colors. It breathes, and no camera breathes with it. This is what sets Alexandrite apart, not its rarity or history, but its refusal to commit to a single identity. It is a gem that lives between temperatures, wavelengths, what the eye knows, and what the lens can't quite hold. Jewelry houses know this. They show it in person, never under a single light. It is always moving, always in flux. Stillness ruins it, and snapshots lie. What Alexandrite offers cannot be paused. It must be witnessed as light changes, and something ancient decides which color to become. Rank second, Moonstone, the glow that refuses to be captured. Some stones sparkle, some stones shine, and then there is Moonstone, a gem that doesn't light up. It glows from within. To the human eye, that glow is unmistakable. It is a soft mist of blue or white floating just beneath the surface. Never sharp, never still. It follows no angles. It flickers like memory, like breath, like something half remembered. This phenomenon has a name, adulorescence. But to a camera sensor, that glow disappears. Moonstone's magic comes not from color or clarity, but from structure. Microscopic layers of feldspar that scatter light in gentle interference. That scattering doesn't happen on the surface. It hovers inside like moonlight trapped under the skin. The effect is subtle, directional, and alive. And machines don't like subtle. Digital cameras flatten the glow, overcorrecting the softness into a haze or missing it entirely. The sensor hunts for edges that aren't there. Autofocus stumbles. The white balance leans cold, crushing the whisper of blue into a sterile gray. What's left is a dull, cloudy orb, lifeless, unremarkable, untrue. Even under professional lighting, Moonstone resists exposure. Too much brightness drowns out the glow. Too little, and the stone disappears into shadow. There's no consistent setting and no reliable filter. Capturing it requires patience, motion, and change. 3 things cameras were never designed to feel. In still photography, the adulorescence may flicker into 1 frame out of 100. It shifts so delicately in the video that viewers often mistake it for lens flare or digital artifact. Editors try to enhance it, but enhancement isn't authenticity. Moonstone was never meant to be seen louder, only deeper. Historically, this quality gave Moonstone sacred weight. In India and Sri Lanka, it was worn during rituals, not for status, but for silence. In ancient Rome, it was believed to hold frozen beams of moonlight. Across cultures, it became a gem of transitions, night to day, seen to unseen, physical to spiritual. But in the digital age, that softness is misunderstood. Most images online portray Moonstone as milky and opaque, stripped of its quiet motion. The shimmer becomes a smudge, the glow a guess. Shoppers swipe past, unaware that what they've dismissed as blurry is one of nature's most carefully layered illusions. And that is the key. Moonstone doesn't perform for the camera. It performs for the eye. When the light is low and the room is still, something begins to move in that stillness. Not fast, not bright, but real. It is a blue that shifts without changing, a shape that glows without source, a presence that doesn't reflect, it remembers. And for those who've seen that moment just once, no photograph will ever be enough. In first place, Labradorite, the light that escapes the lens. Some stones reflect light, some absorb it. And then there is Labradorite, the gem that sets it free. At first glance, it's gray, unassuming, and a mineral dressed in ash. But tilt it, and everything changes. Colors explode. Neon blues, molten golds, and Arctic greens flicker beneath the surface like auroras trapped in stone. They are not painted on, not layered, but embedded, like storms beneath ice. This effect has a name, labradorescence, but no word prepares the eye for what the stone does. Labradorite doesn't shimmer, it awakens. From angles unknown, In moments unplanned, it ignites, then vanishes again just as quickly, like memory, like instinct. It's like something trying to speak in color before going quiet. But try capturing that in a frame, and it slips through everything. Photography fails it. Lenses flatten it. Light boxes kill it. Digital sensors designed to capture precision lose the chaos that makes Labradorite divine. Shoot it head on, and it's nothing but a muddy slate. Tilt too far, and the flare is gone. One angle too much, and it disappears altogether. On the other hand, it lives. On screen, it fades. Even the best gemstone photographers admit that Labradorite is nearly unshootable. Its fire doesn't live on the surface. It waits behind layers of feldspar, invisible until just the right light bends inward and ricochets outward again. That ricochet is fleeting, and cameras don't chase fleeting. They chase fixed points, controlled surfaces, predictable sheen. Labradorite is none of those things. It is not meant to be still. It is not meant to be staged. It's meant to be found, the one suddenly like a secret, and lost just as fast. Geologically, it forms in basalt and gabbro, born of slow-cooling magma under immense pressure. Microscopically, it's structured in thin lamellae, sheets that interfere with light like oil and water. But Labradorite orchestrates where oil makes a mess, each plane reflecting a different color and moment. This is not a gemstone. It's a phenomenon. No two pieces are the same. No two flashes ever repeat. Some carry the full spectrum, rainbow Labradorite, but even then, no photo has ever done it justice. Because Labradorescence isn't a color, it's an event that happens between light and soul, not lens and surface. Indigenous cultures of northern Canada believed ancient forces trapped the northern lights in Labradorite. That belief may be more accurate than science admits. Because even today, in the age of 8K clarity, AI enhancement, and cinematic-grade optics, Labradorite remains one of the only gemstones whose true beauty is not digitized. Not because the tools aren't good enough, but because the moment isn't meant to last. And so it stands at the top of this list, not as the brightest nor the rarest, but as the one gemstone that defeats technology, simply by refusing to obey. The light escapes the lens, and that is precisely why it matters. They were all here. You watch them shift, disappear, flicker, retreat. Not one stayed still long enough for a perfect picture. And that's the point. In an age obsessed with clarity, resolution, and proof, these gemstones remind us that not everything rare can be rendered. Some things are made to be felt, not filmed. Some beauty resists perfection on purpose. They dodge the spotlight. They blur under pressure. They escape not because they are weak, but because they are too precise for simplification. And in doing so, they leave behind something even more valuable than the image we tried to take, a question. What else in this world is only visible when you stop trying to capture it?